Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to Madam Anis and my fellow friends. My name is Aina Syafiqah Binti Zawawi. There are 4 people in my group, which are Auni, Nazirah, Amirah, Syafiqah, Amanina, Syakirah, and me. Today, my group will be presenting about budget 2022, less revenue, biggest deficit, as country in post-COVID recovering by Malaysia key teams. The COVID-19 pandemic in Malaysia is part of worldwide coronavirus disease pandemic caused by coronavirus 2. After Indonesia and Vietnam, Malaysia currently ranks third in the number of cases of COVID-19 infection and deaths due to the disease in Southeast Asia. There are 4,454,000 confirmed cases in Malaysia as of 5th May 2022, with 4,391,000 totally recovered cases, 35,000 deaths, and 27,000 cases remaining active. The COVID-19 pandemic had a major economic impact on Malaysia. The Bursa Malaysia stock market had collapsed by the end of January 2020 as investors sold their share in response to the economic uncertainty brought by the pandemic. The country's gross domestic product (GDP) had decreased by 3.4% in the fourth quarter of previous year by February 2021. Furthermore, the Malaysian economy contracted by 5.6% in 2020, the worst result since the Asian financial crisis of 1998. Many sectors, including the entertainment, retail, hospitality, and tourism sector, have been affected by various movement restrictions and social incarceration regulation as the approach in fighting the COVID-19 epidemic throughout 2020 and 2021. In addition, panic buying resulted in shortage of essential items such as face masks and liquid disinfectant. In response, the government had banned the export of face masks and taken steps to import more face masks. The pandemic has also brought attention to the issue of workplace safety as well as the exploitation of foreign employees in Malaysian industry. Following the establishment of COVID-19 cluster among foreign workers, the Malaysian government was forced to take measures to improve their welfare and penalize irresponsible employers. A total 608,000 foreign workers had been checked for COVID-19 by March 12, 2021, with 9,000 testing positive. It will be quite different since the focus will be on saving people as well as the country economy, whereas the focus will be on strengthening people's well-being following the current disaster. Normally, the budget is allocation for the other ministry, but this time it is a combination of how we find solutions, encourage economic growth, and assist the country in dealing with the COVID-19 war. Malaysian Finance Minister Tengku Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz presented the budget on October 29 with a total budget of 332.1 billion ringgit. This is the highest allocation of Malaysia up to 320.6 billion ringgit in 2021. Malaysia has set a revenue target of 234 billion ringgit of 2022. As the country prepared to enter the epidemic phase of COVID-19, Malaysian Finance Ministry reversed that Health Ministry has allocated 32.4 billion ringgit for its costs. A further 4 billion ringgit has been set aside to combat COVID-19, with 2 billion ringgit going into vaccination initiative and the other 2 billion ringgit going to expanding the capability of public health facility. Minister of Finance Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz state that in terms of operating expenditure allocation (OE), we have spent a lot to support the people, including through prihatin assistance and the other means. So far, 10.6 million Malaysians have been benefited from the 18.2 billion ringgit Bantuan Prihatin Nasional BPN assistance, the wage subsidy program for businesses and employees, which benefits around 320,000 businesses and save nearly 2.8 million jobs at a cost of 12 billion ringgit.
Malaysia confronts the same issue as the rest of the world in 2021, which COVID-19 remaining a key issue that must be tackled as it continues to endanger life and undermine economic recovery efforts. To combat the rise in COVID-19 incidence, the Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin announced new Movement Control Order (MCO) nationwide in early 2021. With the adoption of MCO 2.0, the restrictions of mobility between states and districts was reinstated. Travel was limited just up to 10 km from their residence, and only 5 key economic sectors, namely manufacturing, construction, services including supermarkets, bank and health services, commerce and distributions, and plantations were allowed to operate, causing additional shock to the economy. Malaysia is also facing a third wave of pandemic, prompting the government to announce the Movement Control Order nationwide, known as MCO 3.0, from May 12 to June 7, 2021. The COVID-19 pandemic is requiring all levels of government to act in a context of great uncertainty and under heavy economic, fiscal, and social pressure. The spending ceiling under the COVID-19 Fund KWC-19 increased from 65 billion to 110 billion. Tengku Zafrul in July was reported to have said that Malaysia's fiscal deficit is expected to increase to between 6.5 and 7.0% of GDP in 2021 from 6.0 previously targeted, after taking into account the stimulus package announced by the government. Latest COVID-19 lockdown has slow recovery, with the Southeast Asian country cutting its 2021 growth forecast twice this year to 3% to 4%. The 2020 budget, according to Finance Minister Tengku Zafrul Abdul is the largest ever. Despite lower than expected revenue and a larger deficit in 2021, the government aimed to spend Rm 332.1 billion in 2022, up from Rm 320.6 billion this year. In this preamble to the government's budgetary predictions report for 2022, Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob noted that over the last 90 months or so, the government has constantly proved that despite limited fiscal resources, the government tried to deliver as best as they can. However, the strengthening the budgetary positions ultimately depend on a sustainable economic recovery. Its fiscal deficit is also forecast to fall 6% in 2022, down from 6.5% 2021.
Next is issue related to theory, the public expenditure. Public expenditure is expenses incurred by government in provision of various public goods and services, promoting welfare, well-being of the people, maintenance of governments, defense force, civil servants, and so on, maintaining economic stability and reducing inequality of income and reallocation of resources. In general, the expenditure commitment during the pandemic crisis have expanded due to government priority to provide sufficient support to the economy. Based on the main issue, the government has solved the issue through the budget 2022, 332.1 billion ringgit Malaysia budget. 2022 is the largest to date, which was tabled by Finance Minister Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul is seen as a feel-good budget. That one has been goodies for almost everyone in Malaysian family, in the line with the government themes of Keluarga Malaysia Makmur Sejahtera. For example, government has given tax relief to tourism sector. The 1,000 ringgit Malaysia tax break for domestic tourism will be extended until 2023 by the government. Other steps to aid the tourist sector include wage subsidy plan to tour operators who have seen 30% drop in revenue. The government also contribute 600 million ringgit Malaysia to the BPMB rehabilitation scheme and degenerative tourism financing. Other than that, the Jamin Kerja program is anticipated to reduce unemployment rates to 4%, with the government aiming to employ 600,000 people. The government also will subsidize 20% of the salary for the first 6 months and 30% for the next 6 months under this scheme. However, the Jamin Kerja is only available to people who earn less than 1,500 ringgit Malaysia per month. Tengku Zafrul added, this program will also give incentive for the recruitment of the disabled with a larger subsidy of 30% for the first 6 months and 40% for the next 6 months, with income below 1,200 ringgit Malaysia only.
The COVID-19 pandemic has raised various issues and left a deep impression and implication on the government, ministry and the public. Nevertheless, many recommendations have been taken to address the implication of the issue. First, Budget 2022 as a savior to the national economic system. The COVID-19 pandemic has led to the depreciation of the Malaysian currency, has caused economic system to plummet, and to overcome this, the Malaysian government has presented the 2022 budget, presented by the Minister of Finance, Tengku Zafrul bin Tengku Abdul Aziz. This presentation is a moment that all Malaysians are waiting for because this is where financial assistance for the people and the country will be announced. The 2022 budget that will be presented is expected to be a comprehensive budget by prioritizing the interests of the people from various walks of life, regardless of race or ethnicity, and able to reflect the systematic planning of a responsible government. The main emphasis of the government for the 2022 budget is the responsibility in driving economic growth that can be benefits various parties. To achieve this, the government will continue to be committed in managing expenditure prudently and creatively to ensure quality service to the people. Next, the tax relief for the paralysis of tourism sector. The tourism industry in Malaysia is the second largest source of income from foreign exchange and has a positive impact on the economy. However, due to the COVID-19, industrial tourism will be paralyzed, and this has been confirmed by the Senior Principal Assistant Secretary, Tourism Policy and International Relations Divisions, Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture Malaysia, MOTEC, namely Mr. Khairul Nizam Said. On September 22, Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob said that the cross-state travel and tourism site would be permitted to reopen if the COVID-19 vaccination had been administered to at least 90% of the adult population. In keeping with this, the government maintained 1,000 ringgit tax break for domestic tourists till next year. A targeted salary subsidy system for tourism companies experiencing a revenue drop of at least 30% is one of the steps to aid the industry. Under the Pencana Tourism Financing and PPMP Rehabilitation Scheme, the government is also giving 600 million in funding. This initiative can grow Malaysian economy. By having this initiative, tourism industry improve their infrastructures, provide new job opportunities, and gain tourist interest. In return, this spending creates a multiplier effect as a nation's spending power would have greatly increased. Last but not least, Jamin Kerja scheme to reduce unemployment. The offering of about 600,000 work opportunities through Jamin Kerja Keluarga Malaysia is like delivering a ray of hope to the community, especially those who are affected and lost their sources of income, in order to minimize unemployment in Malaysia as a result of COVID-19. Finance Minister Datuk Sri Tengku Zafrul Abdul Aziz said that the government aims to reduce the unemployment rate to be below 4% for 2022. Jamin Kerja will also incentivize the hiring of disabled persons with higher subsidies, 30% for the first 6 months and 40% for the next 6 months. This is limited to salary below 1,200 ringgit only. Malaysia's poverty line is a monthly income of 2,280 ringgit. According to Department of Statistics Malaysia in 2022, the unemployment rate in Malaysia declined to 4.1% in March 2022 from 4.7% in the same month a year earlier, as the economy recovered from the coronavirus description. The number of unemployment dropped 11.1% from a year earlier to 669.2 thousand, while employment increased 2.9% to 15.77 million.
As a conclusion, the COVID-19 pandemic in reality had negative impact on the community economy and revenue. As far as we know, the community has benefited from billions of ringgit in business drive initiative adopted through several pandemic packages. Budget 2022 will continue to emphasize measures that promote the national economic recovery in the aftermath of the epidemic. The illness has not only become a public health concern, but it also had an economic impact on Malaysia. The issue that we have discussed in this matter is Malaysia have bigger deficit due to the COVID-19 outbreak. Because of that, budget 2022 has been introduced and it is the largest ever according to Finance Minister Tengku Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz. There are several implications to the Malaysian financial system in Tengku Zafrul's budget 2022. According to a memorandum of understanding struck by the government and Pakatan Harapan, this budget is projected to have bipartisan approved. As a result, the issue of struggling financially, like unemployment, expected to reduce by Jamin Kerja program. In addition, this budget also helping businesses to get back on their feet after COVID-19 lockdown. That's all from us. Thank you.